and his team. Just want to share with everybody some sad news that Jane Schmidt, who's on the call here, our development director, is retiring, and her last day is next Friday, February 6th. And so,
Wow.
over the years, Jane's been an invaluable member of our team, and she's offered incredible institutional knowledge for me in my start here, and she has an infectious joy around the office. And if you ask anybody who works here who's not even associated with the foundation, they know who Jane Schmidt is because of her impact on the wider community. And there's a great book on forming intentional disciples by Sherry Waddell a number of years ago, talking about evangelization. And she talked about, with the wider community who you don't necessarily work with, even know if you ever left. And Jane is the definition of somebody who fits that mold, who made such an impact. And so she leaves behind a great legacy, and so we're sad to see her go. So please join me in thanking Jane for her time, and feel free to send her a note. I know she appreciates it. So thank you, Jane, and we will be sad to miss you. And so with that, we're on the search for a new development director. So spread the word, and the job's posted, and we've already received an application for the position. And we also have an open position for a gift planning consultant as well. So there's a couple opportunities, great opportunities here at the foundation that are available at the current moment. A couple other things. So we've got 5 workshops coming up here over the next couple of months. We've got on Thursday, February 19th, we have a workshop at Good Shepherd. We've got on March 4th, St. Agnes, March 11th, Holy Angels, March 25th, Sacred Heart of Jesus in Shawnee, and April 16th, St. Paul's in Olathe. And so this is just the 5 workshops that are on our docket that are coming up. And you can find those details on our events page on the website, or, if you have any questions about that, please send me an email or let me know. And the other big event that's coming up is Deo Gratias. So Deo Gratias literally means thanks be to God in Latin. And this is our annual Giving Society event where we honor an individual and an organization within our community that has demonstrated exceptional service and supported Catholic institutions and commitment to our overall mission here at the foundation and our legacy. So this year's event will be on March 26th at Holy Trinity in Lenexa. And so the mass is at 5:30, and the dinner and the program kind of follow that. So that is coming up as well. Another piece is our grants program. We have a grants program that's in our 2nd year this last year, which is awesome. And so our grants program, what it is it's a competitive grant opportunity that provides financial support to Catholic parishes, schools, ministries, and other institutions only within the Archdiocese. Grants are available, each year. The application process is July and August. And awards are based on how well proposed projects align with our mission. Grant amounts often help fund innovative programs that are about capacity building, marketing, technology, stewardship efforts, and may cover a portion of project costs up to a set maximum. And so we really want to help increase the fundraising engine and fund development engine at our partners. And so that's what this goes toward. So this year, we just released grants $50,000 to 26 entities across the Archdiocese. And we just got done kind of visiting and doing check deliveries and check presentations. And our marketing and development team, we got to witness firsthand, some of the amazing work that's going on at some of our entities across the Archdiocese. And so it's a fun event for us. We get to show up, and I feel like Santa Claus. And so it's just great. And so just want to share that. And then finally, 2 key takeaways from the quarter. We had a few key takeaways. One is we had a number of marketing events, and we also had our St. Cecilia's Mass, and just had a number of events that were well attended that went really well. But secondly, we have a new all-time high in assets at $170 million. And so very excited about that. And then for the 4th consecutive quarter, we've had positive net additions. And so this is the first time since 2015 that this has happened. So very excited about the progress that we've made, and really attribute a lot of that to our marketing efforts and sort of our shift in our strategy over the last couple of years here. And so kudos to Jane, her team, and also any of those who have been involved with our marketing efforts from a volunteer basis, including members of our board. And so very grateful for that. So with that, if there's any questions, I can take those, or feel free to send me an email. And if not, I can pass it over to Chuck.
All right. I think I'll grab the reins, Derek. I don't hear any questions yet, at least. So thank you and congratulations to Jane. I know you'll be missed. I know I'll miss you personally. So, and I'm glad I never played pickleball against you. So,
Aren't we all? Aren't we all? And we
I'll
still won't play her. We
find you. We'll play a game. I'm gonna miss you too.
maybe I'll just watch with a beer in my hand. How's that?
Ditto.
All right. Well, Beth, if you could pull up, or whomever, I know it was Beth or Morgan who is going to pull up the deck. Thank you. And if you could go to the next page, please. Oh, not that one. Yep. Bingo. Thank you. So I'll hit some of the key items here. Paul Rakulia and Chance Pierce are on the Zoom call as well. I'm going to ask them to participate in a few points. But as you can see, for the fourth quarter, the equity portfolio just slightly below 2.9%, which was a little bit behind the blended benchmark. And for the year, we topped 20%, which is great news, but we were also a little bit behind the benchmark. I'll talk about the reasons for that in a moment. Basically, we had a variety of things go on there, but I'll talk about that in a minute. As you see, the US CCB compliance level is at 97.4%. Just to remind everybody, our goal is to be at least 97%. So we've been consistent in that regard. On the fixed income front, a little bit over 1% return for the quarter, again, slightly behind the benchmark, and a nice overall return at 6.2%, but still for the year, but still a little bit behind benchmark. We'll talk about that as well. So we tend to provide a hypothetical portfolio of 60-40, thinking that a lot of our constituents are using a mix similar to that. So for the quarter, 2.1% versus 2.4 and 14.5 versus about 15.7. And if you had a 60-40 portfolio, the US CCB compliance level on a blended basis would be about 98.4%. So a very high US CCB compliance level. Just kind of for comparison purposes, and some of you probably already know this, S&P 500 last year was up 17.9%. The Russell 3000, which is a component of our blended benchmark on the equity side, was up 17.1%. And the ACRI ex-US, that was up 32%, actually 32.4%, which is, a juxtaposition from what had been transpiring, domestic equities versus international equities for quite some time. This is the first time in quite a while where international equities outperformed, and actually emerging market equities in particular were up over 34%. So really a stellar year on that front, and it's continuing into 2026 as well. So I'll just make a couple quick comments on kind of the reasons for performance, and then I'll stop for questions for a moment. So on the equity front, had a couple of things that worked our way and a couple of things that didn't. One of our strategies we utilized, equity income outperformed, which was great, and we did actually have a decent weighting in international stocks, which helped as well. But we had an underweight in emerging markets, not dramatic, but enough to create a headwind when that sector is up 34% and you've got an underweight of just a couple percent. That's an outsized headwind. And then actually our largest position, our S&P socially responsible portfolio we manage, actually had a difficult fourth quarter. It was up a couple percent, but that was about 1% behind the benchmark, and it had a little bit of an underperformance for the year. And given its weight in the portfolio, that created a headwind on the equity front as well. On the fixed income side, the underperformance there is really more or less quality. We had a duration during the year, pretty similar for most of the year to the benchmark, but our quality level, and I'll let Chance talk about that in a minute. Our quality level is very high. We have a lot of U.S. government bonds in there and very high quality corporates, and that was actually a little bit of a headwind this year as well. So let me pause there just for a second and see if anybody has any questions on this performance page in particular. Please don't be bashful. All right, Beth, maybe we could go to the next page, which will be the construction of the equity portfolio. You could see there about 67% in domestic large cap equities, which is actually a little bit less than it was at the end of last quarter and at the end of 2024 as well. 5.3% in small and mid cap domestic stocks, which is a little bit less than it was at the end of 24, but above where it was at the end of the third quarter. International developed at 20.2, which is at a greater level than both at the end of 24 and at the end of the third quarter. We've worked to increase that allocation, as I alluded to. And then emerging markets at 7.4%, which is still a slight underweight versus the benchmark, but we definitely gravitated to add to that over the course of 2025 and in the fourth quarter as well. Paul, any comments you have on maybe some of the moves we made during the fourth quarter, or maybe even the first part of 27 already? Excuse me, 26 already?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just kind of reiterate a little bit, Chuck. I mean, I think in broad strokes, what we did during the fourth quarter added to international. So again, we came into the quarter kind of neutral on the developed market, just recognizing the strength in that area and still what we believe are attractive relative valuations. We did add a little bit to international developed, again, reduce the underweight in emerging markets. Still think there's some opportunity in that area with the valuations we're seeing. Also added slightly to the small and mid cap part of the domestic market. That's an area of the market that here year to date is seeing some strength. You're seeing more people talk about kind of the market strength broaden out beyond just kind of the U.S. large cap stocks. So I want to have a little more exposure there in the portfolio. And then what funded those additions was a slight reduction in the U.S. large cap part of the portfolio. Early on in the first quarter, I think one of the things we did is we did reduce our socially responsible strategy by a bit. I think we've always tried to manage that position weight and reduce that down a fair amount just to kind of diversify the portfolio further to some other solutions, including the equity income proprietary strategy that we manage in-house. So those are the things we did kind of early in the first quarter, keeping a close eye on the strength in emerging markets to see if we want to continue to close the gap there. So I'll leave it there, Chuck, and see if you have anything to add.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. To that point, we reduced that SRI position, which has typically been around 40% of the overall equity portfolio. We reduced it by about 10%, I think, Paul, and added that by and large to equity income, which has caught some good momentum over the last few months, including the first month of this year. Any questions? All right. And just so you know, it's really early in the ballgame, but the equity portfolio for the first 4 weeks of the year is up about 3.3%, which is a good nominal start to the year. I think we're a little bit behind the benchmark, honestly, but still a really nice nominal start to the year. Beth, if you could go to the next page, please. So on the fixed income portfolio construction, as I alluded to, 63% in treasuries and other governments, about 31% in corporates, CDs, and taxable munis. Again, very high quality there. About 3.8% in mortgage and asset backs. That's an increase a bit versus what that has been. I think some of you recall we did initiate a a position, I think, late in the third quarter in that category, and then 1.7% in cash, which is a little bit less than the end of the third quarter. It's closer to 4% at the end of the third quarter. The duration of the portfolio is 3.8 years versus the benchmark at 3.7. It was 3.9 at the end of September, and at the end of 2024 is actually 3.4. So we've kind of neutralized the duration there, versus the benchmark, and have done that purposely. So, Chance, comments you might have on some of the moves on the fixed income fund?
Yeah. Yeah. So really on the fixed income side, we're just kind of staying the course, focused on quality given where spreads are right now. And by spread, I mean the amount you're compensated above and beyond a treasury for taking on extra credit risk. Spreads are the tightest they've been. You have to go back to the late 90s for to experience another period where spreads are as tight as what they are now. So really just kind of staying the course, waiting for something to happen that causes the spreads to widen a little bit, then hopefully be able to take advantage of that. But right now with pretty much all of the new money that's coming in, we're investing it in high quality, whether it's treasuries or double A, triple A investment grade bonds. Just kind of feel like right now it's not the time to take risk in the bond market. And obviously with the Fed cutting the last year or so, the easy money's been made. And you can see that in the performance over 6% last year on the bond side, which in absolute terms is a great year for bonds. So yeah, I mean, to sum it up, just kind of stay in the course, not taking any undue risk on the fixed income part of the portfolio.
And just so you know that so far the fixed income portfolio is up just a tad year to date, and it's up about 10 basis points versus the benchmark, but I would say relatively flat for the first few weeks of the year. Any questions on the fixed income fund? All right. Well, I'll make just a couple of quick comments on what we're seeing for 2026. It's always an interesting time, not only in the markets, but certainly in the world as well. So from an economic perspective, there are a few things that are going to be kicking in, fairly soon in a positive way. The anticipated tax refunds in the U.S. are about to spike pretty significantly. That should be somewhat of a tailwind for the consumer and for the economy. In addition to that, the government is looking to increase, some deregulation activities, which is often considered to be, a lubricant for the economy. So we're looking for that, and certainly the thing we keep tabs on very regularly for a variety of reasons are corporate earnings, and they have come in, consistently well quarter after quarter, and we anticipate that will continue, going forward. Question marks on tariffs, whether there's a more debate than you would imagine in regard to their impact on the economy and inflation, in particular. And the Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs should come, before too long, or at least the lever that President Trump has used over the last, basically 9 months. Regardless of what the outcome is of the Supreme Court, in all likelihood, tariffs will remain. The federal government will just use a different lever, to get to the point that it wants to. So it's more of a question of how versus if, per se. Also, as the Federal Reserve is about to make an announcement, probably is not going to change its interest rate level in January, may do once or twice during the course of the year. But that's something to be seen. And as Chance alluded to, there were 3 reductions towards the end of the year-ish last year. Won't talk about some of the trials and tribulations on our next Federal Reserve Chairman, who Rick Reeder, if anybody knows him, is in the, maybe the driver's seat now, a name that was not talked about a lot, I would say a couple months ago, although he was on the radar, but now has seemed to pop up to the head of the class, but that could change at any moment. And all the geopolitical things that are going on, we're certainly trying to digest that between Venezuela and not sure how Greenland will have an impact, if at all, on the economy. But some saber rattling in that regard as well. One thing I will point out, I try not to make any prognostications because crystal balls are always very cloudy. But one thing that is pretty certain that over time, the second year of a presidential term is usually not the best year of that 4-year time period. It is usually one where stocks in particular are a little bit more volatile, and also the returns in that year, that second year, are typically less than the other 3 years of that presidential term. So we'll see how it comes out this year, but I do at least have that in mind after a great 23, a great 24, and obviously a great 25 for overall market returns. That maybe this year will be one where not looking for a big fall off, but maybe not the incredible returns we've had the last 3 years. So maybe a little bit more muted. So with that, I'll catch my breath. I hope you have some questions between Chance and Paul and even Doug too. We're happy to answer any questions that you have, and again, hope you have some.
Chuck, I just have one question for the group. I know you talked about the equity and fixed returns. The money market, that is an investment option that all of our fund holders do have here at the Catholic Foundation. January, the money market rate was 3.55%. Do you see that either going up a little bit or ticking down any in the next coming months?
Yeah, that's a good question. The majority, it kind of vacillates just slightly from day to day, still at that 3.55. The times when it's moved significantly, and a move significantly in that is different than a significant move in the equity market, but it's usually been correlated to some degree with a move by the Fed. Until the Fed makes another cut, I would anticipate that 3.55 will stay similar, 3.5 to 3.6. When the Fed has made a move, if it makes a 25 basis point move, there's tended to be about a 15 basis point move in the money market. So, but until that happens, if and when that happens, I would think, Jane, that's going to stay, kind of between 3.5 and 3.6. I'm glad you brought it up, though.
Thanks for that. Yeah, thanks for that. Chuck, I also want to just make a comment. I want to thank Doug Hackert for all of his work in the month of, not all throughout the year, but this December, we had I would say quite a few stock gifts come through to the Catholic Foundation that benefited some of our donor advised funds and also some of our school endowments and parish endowments. And I just want to tip my cap to Doug and his team. Just grateful and thankful, Doug, for your hard work in communicating with Bobby, our controller here at the foundation, just with all the stock gift transactions that were coming in like wild rapid fire. It seemed like at one point there towards the end of December, but I just want to thank you, Doug, for all your hard work in getting all that communicated to Bobby and I so we could let our fund holders know, because people wait till that last minute to get that stock deal done. And I just want to say thanks so very much for all your hard work.
Well, Jane, that's nice of you to say. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that is very nice. And believe me, Doug takes all the stock gifts to heart and is on top of them and makes sure that they are, taken care of as soon as we possibly can. So thank you for bringing it up, Jane, and thank you to Doug. Any other items before I turn it back over to Derek? All right. Well, thank you all. Appreciate the partnership. If any other questions come up, we're happy to answer them. In addition to that, stay warm and stay healthy. There's a lot of stuff floating around, and hopefully you and your families are healthy and will continue to be so. So thanks, Derek. I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, I want to reiterate that. Thank you all for coming on. And then Chuck, thank you to you and your team for another great investment webinar here. If any of you have any questions about some of the events or some of the things that are going on at CFNEK, please send us an email. If you know of somebody who wants to set up a fund, whatever it may be, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here and we're ready to serve in whatever capacity that may be. So check the website, check our socials for anything else that's going on. But hope you all have a great rest of your week, and we will see you all soon, whether on site in person or on another webinar. So thank you very much.